Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rise to Your Peak podcast. I am here today with my guest, Sammy Muredda. Sammy, how are you doing?
I am so good. I'm so excited to be on this podcast. I've been following you for a little bit now. Obviously, you've helped me with my blood work, so just so excited to finally be able to speak on it.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. Thank you so much for being on. Um, the today's topic, we're going to really talk about balance and how restrictive the competitive fitness world tends to be, or I guess better yet, the concept of how restrictive it needs to be, and how that's not necessarily always the case. There can be a lot of gray area middle ground. And something that I've noticed from following you and your team is you guys do a great job at that and helping your clients see the bigger picture of what balance looks like, enjoying life, still crushing your fitness goals, and still accomplishing everything in between. So I'm really excited to have you on today to talk about that. Let's get started with what got you into fitness coaching and competitive bodybuilding.
Yeah, so I played basketball growing up my whole entire life. Decided not to play in college, and then, freshman 15 definitely kind of got me. Gave up on my health a little bit. I never really did like structured lifting just because basketball was always like conditioning and
Sure.
kind of just doing running and that stuff. But started going into my rec center freshman year, fell in love with it. Kind of did things wrong the first way, bulking wrong, not really having a coach, thought I can do myself, and then got a coach, completely fell in love with the process. Did my first bodybuilding show junior year of college, but before then, definitely was in the gym, doing a little bit too much. Like I said, first show was in junior year of college, also competed again in senior year, and now I'm here 4 years out of college. So just kind of always been an athlete and was missing that competition of something.
Yeah.
So bodybuilding kind of lit that spark in me again to go against myself and, find something I could be good at again.
Gotcha. Yeah. Totally get it. Um, Were you always into the EDM culture as well, or is that something that it seems like a lot of people get introduced to that at the same time as they're getting introduced to fitness and competitive bodybuilding? And it really is interesting how those communities kind of like intertwined.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was not always into EDM. My current boyfriend kind of brought me into it about like 3.5 years ago. And I think the reason I fell in love with it was because I always struggled in college being the one who didn't want to drink and like go out to bars
Hmm.
and festivals. I will tell you, most people do not drink there.
Sure.
And it's such an active activity that you get to stay up doing instead of standing at sober at the bars.
Sure.
So that's what really kind of drew me into raving.
Yeah, I feel like too, and this may or may not be the case for you, but a lot of people kind of get introduced in terms of EDM as like good training music. And
Yep.
then they kind of like, wow, now I'm listening to this music all the time, not just when I'm lifting. Now I want to go to events. Now I want to experience the full thing. And it's kind of like a slow introduction in that regard.
Yeah, exactly that. I was listening to like a SoundCloud mix and I was like, oh, this is great. And never have to skip. It's an hour and a half long. It's constant PRs. It's constant
Yeah,
like
yeah,
how hard music, which is like the best to lift to.
yeah, yeah. Um, So tell me a little bit about your competitive career as you got started into real competitive bodybuilding.
Yeah, so my first prep, looking back on it, definitely was a tough one. I'm not now with that coach I was with. I definitely fell in love with the sport. I should have, I'll be honest, I should have acted more like a bodybuilder first before I got into my full prep. I think that's kind of when maybe bodybuilding was coming up on social media. I kind of saw and I was like, oh, like let me give this a shot. Realistically, I probably should have done maybe a mock prep first, a little bit more of an aggressive cut, got it a better body recomp. But truly amazing stepping on stage for the first time. The discipline you learn about your first bodybuilding prep is unreal.
Yeah.
Fell in love with it. Didn't realize how hard the reverse would be. No one kind of prepped me for that. So
Yeah.
that was a lot of things I've learned were through experience, which I'm so grateful for because I'm able to now put that in my clients. But my first post show was definitely rough. The binging, the overeating, losing my period, taking that for a while to get back, those kind of things. So I took some time off, obviously got with a new coach then. My second prep was absolutely amazing. It was very easy. My cardio did not get as high. My food definitely got deep, but I wasn't I was on a meal plan, which I really enjoyed. I don't like to think about that at all during prep, which is nice to have that taken out of it, not know what macros I'm eating.
Yeah.
I did way better, had way more muscle, and really fell in love with it. And then again, that reverse was easily as much better, but that second time definitely took me a little bit longer to get my cycle back. It was definitely hard on my body. It took me about 8 months that time. I stayed lean for too long. That was, again, on me, learning experience. But I've been off stage now for 2.5 years. And these last 3 years is everything I needed and more to light the fire in me, be a better competitor. But it's just such a fun sport to continue to get better and better. And it's only a competition with yourself, which is what I love.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's an incredible point. And I do think people need to remember that because I think people get social media is a big part of this, but people get so caught up with competing with others, but it really is just a competition to beat your past self. And it's a slippery slope to constantly compare yourself to others that are in completely different situations as you, whether that be genetically, lifestyle, the their day-to-day demands and what they're doing for work versus somebody who lives at home and doesn't work, like
Yep.
completely different details person to person. It was within those first couple preps that we first connected, correct?
Yes, after my first prep, my hormones were tanked. Came to you guys, you got me on testosterone, which was absolutely amazing. I think I was something maybe it was dosed wrong. I was taking it wrong. I remember you reading my labs, you used me as an example on Instagram, and I was like, oh, hey, I recognize that testosterone number because it was wicked high. I was dealing with some symptoms, but you guys helped me so much with recovering my hormones and like getting my cycle back post show.
Yeah, and that, information has definitely improved in the recent years from when we first connected, but it's still a problem. But especially back then, the concept of female TRT was just um, such a unknown topic to most people, even providers and coaches and stuff. And so knowing the exact details of, okay, this is what a man takes, but this is what a woman should take because they're so androgen sensitive. Most people are shocked to understand just how small a woman needs. We're talking like a droplet. And like that's more than enough for them. So unfortunately, in most cases, especially years ago, women were just being overdosed with
Mhm.
androgens, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you said, it's such a minuscule line. I'm like, is there even anything in here? And it goes
Yeah.
such a long way.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes into, making sure that the concentrate of the product provided to you can even be applied to a woman. Like mo most TRT or testosterone is designed for men, and it's somewhere between 200 to 250 milligrams. There's almost no way to break that down small enough for a woman's dosage of, 3 to 5 milligrams per week.
Right.
So as we learned all these things in the HRT realm, we quickly learned we need to custom compound much lower concentrations for women to set them up for success. And I was really glad that we were able to help you out so much. And I've seen you thrive since, which is always awesome to watch. Um, and I've seen for sure that you've always kind of utilized past experiences to help yourself become a better coach and set other people up for a little bit more success, save them from maybe making those same mistakes, or just save them from a couple learning processes, yourself, which I think is great. That's obviously what coaches should be doing. Um, so tell me a little bit about, you got through those competitions, and at the same time you were kind of getting into the festival culture. When did you start coaching?
I've been coaching since freshman year of college. So that was maybe like 2019, 2020. I was lifestyle only, just kind of, part-time, getting girls, learning more myself. Completely fell in love with it, obviously. And I made that my full-time job as soon as I graduated. I went to school for entrepreneurship and advertising. I don't really use that, but you can kind of use that in a way with
Kind of, yeah.
marketing yourself in a way. And then, after I kind of competed, I was still learning. I took a few competitors on after my second season while I was still with this lifestyle company. truly amazing lifestyle company. They made me the coach I am today, but I was ready to graduate and kind of, move my career to that next level, taking on more bodybuilders. That is when I signed with Bair Aesthetics about a year ago, which has been completely life-changing. But I'll admit, like back then when I was a freshman in college, I didn't know what I know now. So, like you said, kind of going through my experiences, I've invested a ton of money into our mentorships. My now boss is my mentor, and like where I'm at today is completely different than when I started. So, I've been doing it for about 5 years now, and I absolutely love being a student in this world. I will never think I know enough.
Right.
Imposter syndrome, I think, is real in this, industry, and I'm always wanting to learn more.
Totally. And even if it's not, and even if you are the most knowledgeable around, science is ever changing. And
Yeah.
so it's like the minute you stop learning, you're very quickly going to not be the smartest person in the room, you know? Um, so obviously, you've connected with a lot of people around the nation. I'm just curious, and I follow the Bear Aesthetic team and they're great. But what led you personally to decide to go with them? What was the decision-making factors to choose Dylan and Lauren as your team?
Yeah, definitely wanted to feel like our values aligned. Bare aesthetics is like you kind of said, very scientific based. So we do back
Yeah,
everything up by knowledge. We're wanting to teach our clients. I also was looking for a team that had balance. I feel like on social media nowadays, obviously bodybuilding is rising. A lot of young people are getting into bodybuilding. And I'll be honest, none of you guys are going to make it a career out of this. Like for you guys to, it's so hard to make it a career. So when I saw teams or clients just getting so caught up in the bodybuilding world and not having the balance, I knew that's not for me. I like to have balance. I think bodybuilding looks different on everyone. So having
yeah,
values that aligned with my team was super, super important with me. Bear Aesthetics travels a lot. I want to, connect with my community. I want to be a big team at shows, and that's what really, stood out to me. And again, just the scientific base, not pushing a ton of gear, not pushing PEDs. If we do, we're being smart about it and just
yeah.
having that all around balance.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think you kind of checked off like a couple very clear boxes of anyone who follows the team is science factual based, rational thinking over emotional thinking, and balance and healthy balance of lifestyle, having fun, but still being very successful
Mhm.
competitors. And that's the thing, like, sure, you can go party and lose on stage. That's not cool. But like if you can balance being successful and still living a fun life, that's kind of the win, in my
Yep,
opinion.
totally agree.
Because the NPC will take anyone's money. Stepping on stage is not winning. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You gotta really bring something.
Hmm.
And from what I've seen, I've never directly met Dylan or Lauren, but from what I've witnessed, they always bring really good quality and their people look healthy. And that's like the biggest thing. They don't look, super drugged out,
Yep.
super depleted, like they're on their deathbed.
Yeah.
So you've been with them for a year now, you said?
Yep.
And how's that experience been?
Truly amazing. I got my first pro card with them, which just gave
Awesome.
me, the more confidence that I needed. My girl who just competed as well came runner up to her pro card, so that's huge for me. It just has allowed me to grow so much more as a coach and become more confident in how I prep my girls, my confidence with, bringing those girls to stage, also who I am as a person. They are obviously big in the festival world, and I think sometimes you can get judged for going to these kind of events or just
Yeah.
even if I'm a bodybuilder, not always showing my bodybuilder lifestyle, I feel like sometimes you just get judged for that. But, being with part of this team has made me realize I don't need to be 100% bodybuilder all the time. Actually not being that makes me a better bodybuilder and having balance. Dylan obviously mentors me, teaches me throughout my time with him, which has been really awesome to learn more from him as well because he's an RD, so that's been great.
Yeah. How much was your emphasis into, the balance with like festivals and stuff pre Bear Aesthetics?
It definitely was a like factor just because I was like, oh, you guys rave, like I kind of do too. And not everyone gets it. And also Dylan being able to take competitors to stage while they rave through prep is like important for me because maybe my first prep, I gave up a lot. I kind of isolated myself and I was like, all right, that's not something I want to do again. You don't have to give up your life during prep. Now, of course, when you're 8 weeks, 6 weeks out, yeah, things are going to change. But if I want to go to a festival and I get 30,000 steps in one night, hey, how do we manipulate my sodium, my water, my
Yeah.
steps? And he is so good at that it just takes so much stress off of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and for people listening who may be either unaware of the prep demands or unaware of the festival situation, um, what people need to understand is, realistically speaking, in the modern day, we've all learned that the days of 12-week preps and 16-week preps are beyond. Now we all realize it takes much longer to have a healthy, successful prep realistically 5 to 6 months, sometimes longer. That's half the year. And so if you're truly locked in half the year, you're going to be missing out on a lot of life events. And so that's the discussion is like, well, do I stay locked in and not go to anything all year and have FOMO and stuff? Or do I go and then risk not winning? That's the back and forth. And so to your point, what your team and what Dylan has essentially done is from an analytical perspective, looked at, okay, what are the detriments of going? The travel, the stress, missed meals, depletion of activity, dehydration, missed sleep, and how do we combat, support these things so that maybe that person isn't so detrimented after the fact, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
Do you guys do team meetings about this? Are there open discussions around this? Or is it just known that like Dylan knows what he's doing and we're just going to trust him?
We haven't really done any team meetings, but I'll definitely get on a call with him. When I'm in prep though, I'm giving my all to that prep. I'm packing my ground turkey and rice to the rave. I'm bringing my protein bars.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's more so like kind of like the sleep you said.
Yeah.
So, I did stop raving around like 6 weeks out. This is my first prep with Dylan coming in 2026. So I was
Oh,
on my
okay.
own and my body. I kind of realized once I had 8 weeks out and I did try to go to a festival, it just backfired on me because I tried to do steps and cardio and sleep only 4 hours and I wasn't smart enough to how to do that on my own. So Dylan, definitely if I have someone in prep who is going to festival, I'm like, hey, if their cardio is at an hour, they're about to be at a 2 day festival, like how would you manipulate this? So he teaches me through that. But it's not like we're going to festivals and we are eating the food there. We're still hitting our shit. But it's like, okay, maybe you take the day off of cardio and you sleep an extra and we don't hit our cardio the next day because raving makes up for that.
Absolutely. And same thing with resistance training. I'm assuming you guys are taking off a day after the festival or party.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've tried that before again, tried to hit a leg day because that's when it was planned and it was horrible, literally horrible. I
Yeah.
think I ended up waking up like 2 pounds heavier too because I just was so stressed and inflamed. So definitely kind of recommend like maybe an upper body day the day of the rave and then a full rest day after.
I mean, it's been a minute for me, but just even thinking about it, I'm bad about water. I'm bad about food at those events. And you do so much activity. The next day, my entire lower body is so sore.
Yeah,
Between the dehydration and standing and dancing and stepping all day, ain't no way I'm going to do a workout. Like I am wrecked for 48 hours until I replenish myself?
totally agree.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's funny too because obviously younger people are much more, emotionally tied to their goals and dedicated. So they don't think about it. They're just like, yeah, I'm gonna go train tomorrow because that's what I have to do. It's like that is not gonna go well, dude.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way, like I said, and that's exactly how I used to think. And then I realized, oh, that's what's holding me back. Let
Yeah.
me actually listen to my body more and make more progress that way.
I find it very interesting that you still bring your food and stuff. So I was kind of under the impression that people were just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna fast during this situation. But you guys are actually bringing your meals and staying on track with food.
Oh yeah, like I'll pack protein bars. We were just at the Sphere in Las Vegas. My friend was like 2 weeks out and she brought like these mango sticks in and hit her carbs. We'll cut it off by like 12 a.m. So that way, like it's kind of like a full day, but I will bring my food in just because also festivals have like terrible food options and I'm gonna get
Totally, yeah.
hungry being on my feet for 8 hours. I can't fast that long.
Yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. Um, have you now been in an experience where you've coached someone through a prep with a festival?
I have, but they personally choose to stop at 8 weeks out. I've never had someone go all the way through preps where Dylan or like other bodybuilders who I know, I actually just interviewed a Masters Olympian who raves all the way through prep, like even a peak week. I'm like, wow, I've
Oh,
never experienced
wow.
that. I don't know how you do that. So, but I personally haven't had to take anyone through that yet.
Yeah. Do you feel like, and I ask this not just from your personal opinion, but communicating to people, are people of the idea that this is like a healthy a distraction, kind of a break away from the monotony of prep and their day-to-day life? Like, do they leverage a festival as just a full-on distraction away from everything else and kind of a break, so to speak?
I think yes, because it's such a time to be off your phone,
Yeah,
in music, connecting with other people. I always say it's so nice to be also surrounded by people who aren't maybe so focused on what you look like, your health, and it's such a just a great way to dance and dancing releases endorphins.
yeah,
It's such a different way to move your body and connect with other people through music and just kind of break from reality, as I like to say.
yeah, absolutely. What do you feel are the biggest potential detriments to, or where do you think people go wrong? Have you noticed like that there's some things, you and your team kind of do right that you see people trying, but they're just missing the boat a little bit in terms of this balancing act? And maybe not just with festivals, but just balancing in general, enjoying life while still being successful.
Yeah, going back to kind of what we said of like trying to do everything that day of and the day after and not giving your body time to like rest. Like sleep, I think is king. You need sleep. You could be perfectly hitting your diet, and if you have high stress and poor sleep, it's just not a good combo effect. And in festival, I think obviously drug use is a thing, and if people don't know how to properly use that or abuse it, that's going to take a big hit in their recovery and just how fast they, can recover. And then hydration, I see a lot.
Mm,
Lack of water from the festivals, but I just think people try to almost do too much. And like you said before, they feel bad about skipping a workout. And it's not that you're skipping, you need to strategically plan. You need to plan
right,
a week in advance so you set yourself up for success.
right. And realistically speaking, if you've done everything right, like you said, unless you're 6 weeks out, one day shouldn't make the difference.
Yep.
If you've done everything right for a year, one day is not making the difference. Or 2 days, a week probably wouldn't
Mhm.
make a difference? But that goes back to, well, if you didn't do everything right and now you're relying on every day, that's going to become a problem.
Absolutely. If I have someone going out in their prep and they're getting poor sleep every week, I'm like, hey, if we can't at least catch up on our sleep and you can't hit stuff before you go out and now you're eating at 3 a.m., like we need to get on top of that first and then you can continue to go out. So there's definitely a fine line.
Yeah. Do you primarily coach women or do you also coach men?
I have a few males, but it's definitely primary female.
Gotcha. Do the males also go to festivals and stuff?
I do not have any males that go to festival.
Okay. I was just curious, have you noticed differences and maybe just from Dylan mentoring you, differences male to female in terms of that balancing act? Different
I would say
demands.
I would say honestly, my men kind of have like a more all or nothing mindset. Like sometimes they're on their shit and sometimes they're not. And I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Or sometimes they go out drinking with their buddies. It's like we're going out drinking and they go crazy. And I'm like, that's the only thing I've noticed.
Men
I
are
would say
very all
the
or nothing.
yeah, that's the vibe I get for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just analyzing myself, and that's probably why I couldn't find good balance. Because I'm either all in on the party or all in on the prep?
Yeah, I think that used to be maybe me in the beginning, not really in prep, but like when I first started raving or whatever, like I would miss meals, not hydrate, and then I started feeling like complete crap. And I was like, I hate this feeling. I'm a sleep diva. I need my sleep. I need to feel a certain way. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm not going to give up what I love, but I got to find a way to balance it.
Yeah. Do you think have you worked with people who aren't into the festival scene?
Oh yeah, I would say only if like a handful of my girls are in the festival scene. I work with a lot of, college girls who are also, in sororities. They may not drink, they're trying to go out, and that's what I really since bodybuilding is getting so, popular on social media, looks so fun, I have such young girls coming to me and I'm like, hey, I want you to take this free meal in your off season. I'm telling you right now to go out and get a sushi, go out and get a burger. I'm telling you right now, most of them like don't drink just because they kind of live this lifestyle. But they're like, hey, can I get a drink? I'm like, yes, one drink is fine. Like
Right,
you're so young. We don't need to be giving up your life for
right.
months just to compete in a show. Obviously, yeah, when we're prep, we're locked in, but that's why I try to create that balance because I don't want my young girls getting lost in that and then feeling so restricted, and then it, comes and backfires on them.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you know this too. And we see it a lot in the functional medicine world, where we get athletes 5, 10 years down the line where they have so many food aversions and fears and fixations around certain details. And a lot of that just comes from the early years of kind of poor mental programming, improper thinking patterns around certain details, and that can be very unhealthy for people. And I don't want to say that bodybuilding always does that, but it certainly opens some doors that can, if we're not careful, it can be a slippery slope with, um, you know, um, poor mental health issues with fitness and food.
Yeah, I totally agree. Kind of going off that, like I have a few girls who have come to me like with a restricted mindset and they're like, "Hey, I want to prep." I'm like, "Hey, we're not prepping until you are comfortable taking a free meal and you're comfortable not weighing your lettuce down to the exact gram. Like we need to just have a better relationship with food because I think bodybuilding, if you go into a prep with a poor relationship with food, is only going down heighten that. And some people only feel controlled when they're able to track every single gram. And I said, that's not control to me. You need to know how to properly intuitively eat and track your macros and not just survive off a meal plan because that's the only thing you feel trusted around.
Yeah, totally. I think also kind of a zoomed out bigger picture that I've realized, and it took me a long time to realize this, but realistically speaking, if the only way you can see progress is being hyper precise and fixated on details, you probably have some type of dysfunction because bodies can respond. Calorie deficits, exercise, a healthy body should respond to these stimuli, you know? So, but if you eat an extra 25 carbs and gain weight, that's a problem, you
Right.
know? Or you have to do an hour of cardio to lose weight. That's a problem. You know what I mean? So it's like I think people need to better understand that it's not their body, it's not their genetics. There's probably something wrong.
Agreed. And it takes some time to fix it, and people think it just happens overnight. And I'm like, well, you have to push back now starting prep because we need to fix this first. You can't start prep on an hour of cardio a day and try to build off of that. Like, who wants to be doing 3 hours of cardio a day just for you to be losing a little bit of fat?
Insanity.
Yeah.
So with that being said, in your own opinion, do you feel like what are the main things that you feel draws people to yourself and your team? Is it the balance? Is it the scientific approach? Is it combination effect? What do you see draws people into your team?
A few things. I think people are seeing that we're turning girls pro natural and we're backing it up with science based. We're showing people how we do peak weeks, how much we communicate during peak week, how we show macros, all this kind of stuff, and then of course balance. There's of course there's hardcore bodybuilders, but then there's people who do want to go pro but also not give up life, and I think that's a huge part of our thing. And I think for me personally as a coach, I always say I'm your biggest cheerleader, I'm your biggest supporter, but I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I am very like straight up with my clients. And I think that took me a little bit to learn until I learned boundaries. But I feel like a lot of coaches just tell people what they want to hear or not allow their clients to ask questions. I want my clients to learn. I want you guys to know why we're doing things. But if you say, "Oh, I want to step on stage," or "No, you're not ready. Sorry, I'm not
Right.
doing that," or "Hey, you need to get your lab work. I mean, you need to get your period back. Like, we need to pull back training, right? You can't train in the gym for 5 weeks as hard as you want. Sorry." So I think it's more so just, backing up with what we do with proof,
Right.
showing people that you can have a balanced lifestyle and you don't need a ton of gear to go pro. It's going to take time. Our biggest thing is time. Social media nowadays shows girls going pro in 1 year and people switch lanes, people switch coaches, and it's very frustrating because it's going to take longer than that. Bodybuilding
Right.
is such a lifelong sport. I don't think And that's what frustrates me a little bit is people don't see that right now because it's just getting such a hype.
Very instant gratification society. We see this in everything. People want to be millionaires overnight, they just want everything today. It can't wait. And sure, I've been plenty guilty of it in the past, but to your point, building muscle takes time. And particularly for younger women, I think I haven't coached competitors in a few years, but something that always seemed to be a theme, whether we're talking about men or women, is everyone assumes they have way more muscle and way less fat than they actually have. I'll have guys, that used to come to me and say, yeah, you know, 10 to 15 pounds, 180 will be perfect. And it's like, buddy, you'll be lucky if you're 155.
Yep, I could not agree more.
And women too, like by the time they get lean, they have no butt. They have barely any legs, because you didn't take time to grow it.
That's when people want to compete every year. I'm like, we should not be normalized competing every year. I mean, there's a reason I've been out for 2.5 years for mental reasons, but also physical reasons. I can't, I get everybody is different, but like how fast people gain and like what you go through, it's just so different on the person that, yeah, I could probably grow for another 4 years. Like, it's just, I feel like you'll never have enough muscle mass in the bodybuilding world.
Of course, no, of course not. And people forget that it's inevitable to lose muscle mass when you go into fat loss phase. So that much more important to have it in the off season. But and I don't know if you guys, really analyze this either. I think that there's a huge piece to the bodybuilding world that get into preps merely for dopamine chasing and mental health. It's not about, I want to be SIBA. I want to be the best bodybuilder ever. It's just chasing the stage, chasing the highlights. It's chasing all the feel good things you get from prep. But notice how those same people, when the prep is over, horrible, super demotivated, binging, depressed, and eager to immediately, like they've just finished their show, they're already picking the next show. Why? Because they're dopamine chasing.
Mhm.
They're not sitting in their situation. They didn't even allow it to happen. They're already thinking about the next, you know?
Yep.
How much do you see of that where it seems like they're chasing the wrong things?
A lot, and I see it a lot of time in some lead clients or new potential clients that come to me and they're like, "Hey, it's been on my bucket list," or "Hey, I need a new challenge." And I'm like, it's so much more than that. Also, just because bodybuilding, whether we want to admit or not, does run some health risks, right? And I'm like, you don't understand that when the show is over, you're not just out of prep, you're not back to maintenance. You're in prep for another probably 8 to 10 weeks reversing, getting lab work done. It's not Instagram shows it as glam and fun, which I get part of that is, and being lean looks like really cool, but it's called bodybuilding for a reason. If you
Right.
can't get comfortable being in an off season for years or putting on some weight or just like living the life of a bodybuilder
Right.
outside of prep, it's not for you. And I think people also like to join it because it's a community. It's very like but that's again, there's a lot of, I think, toxic parts of that community that people don't talk about online, which I, again, with my young girls coming in, I try to show them that. I'm like, hey, just, like you will be in prep from, January till probably August, talking about post show. I take post show very seriously.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think enough people are prepped for that. I think everyone's post show is very different, but going
Yeah.
through what I went through, how to handle it better, like post show just has a big effect on me, and I want all my girls to feel comfortable post show. So how I approach that as well is different with every client.
Yeah, sure. And going back to your point of like competing every year, let's think about some real realistic timelines. So you prep for 6 months. To your point, you need at least 4 to 8 weeks after the prep not even a recovery, just post prep.
Hmm.
Now we're at 8 months. Now you actually need to fix the detriments, which will probably be somewhere between 2 to 4 months. Well, now we're at 12 months, the year, and you're immediately going back into prep. But when was the muscle building? We haven't
Exactly.
had time for that yet. So you're bringing the same exact body to the stage if you're lucky.
Yep, and people wonder why they don't make improvements. They're like, oh,
Yeah,
thought I had a lot more muscle mass. Well, you probably just put on fat. Like actually building muscle mass takes so much longer than you would realize.
totally. And to your point, that I think a lot of people still don't know just how sensitive a body is post-show, that you can gain 10 pounds of fat very, very fast. And that's your entire off season. You just fucked your entire off season in 3 days.
Yup. And I try to tell my clients that not out of fear, but I'm like, if you do that, we now, for you to get that fat off, you're gonna have to dig so deep. We can't do it right away because your body still needs to get your hormones up. Like you're gonna have to be uncomfortable now dealing with this because we just wasted 6 months and 2 weeks. And that's what does happen when you are that lean.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough, you know. Um, Tell us a little bit about your onboarding process with new clients.
Yeah, so obviously they apply for a link in our bio. If they request me, they get me. But Dylan kind of reads through applications. He pairs us with whoever he think that client would fit best with.
Very
Hop on
cool.
a call with them, kind of ask what they're struggling with, what they're looking for. Right now, we are getting a lot of competitors who are just wanting to kind of step on stage for the first time. I kind of ask their why and how long they've been thinking about bodybuilding for, and if they know the divisions. And surprisingly, like 2 out of 10 of them know what actual divisions are and like how long they've if they've ever been to a show or anything like that. But so kind of chat with them what they're looking for. I give them a realistic timeline. I think in the past I used to maybe a few years ago like kind of tell them, yeah, we can do that. Now if I'm like, no, you're not stepping on stage 2026. You're currently eating 100 carb, doing an hour of cardio a day. You have no cycle. It's not happening. Or,
Yeah.
let's live the life of bodybuilder first. Can you stay on your diet for 3 months? Those kind of things. And then depending if they want nutritional training, kind of get them set up and get them onboarded.
I want to touch on a point you just said because I really like even just your statement of like, let's live the life for a couple months and see if you can hang in there before we lock in a prep. I mean, it makes so much sense, but it seems like such a rare concept to bring up. How do they respond to that? Because we know that they are, by the time they've reached out to you, they have emotionally decided this is happening.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, not so fast. So, how do they typically respond to that?
I'll get a few that are like, oh, I'm ready. Like, I already do that. Okay, let's start tracking for a week. They're tracking. Their MyFitnessPal is a shit show. They're training 6 days a week, which doesn't make sense because your intensity is not even there then. And 2 weeks in the program, they're like, oh, I couldn't hit my macros this day. I'm like, you're not even understanding what living the life of a bodybuilder means. So I kind of go into that, and people think that it's just eating healthier. Oh, I do so much cardio, like I'm fine. But it's like a lot of times they get into it and they kind of maybe give up in 3 weeks or not give up or they realize it's a lot harder than they would imagine. And then, of course, I do get a few that come in swinging. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to be a great bodybuilder. Like, you love this shit. You're meant for this. But I don't think a lot people think they're doing it until I start coaching them. And they're like, oh, I only get one free meal a week. Or, hey, I have to kind of track my macros in 0 to 5 grams. I can't be under 50 carb and over 10 fat every day.
Wow. Um, if you find someone ends up not necessarily fitting the mold, whether it's their decision or yours, do you still work with them as a lifestyle client, or is that kind of just like, all right, guess it didn't work?
No, absolutely. I would say right now I'm split like 50-50 with lifestyle
Oh,
and competitors. My roster is definitely growing in competitors, but I love lifestyle. I will never stop coaching lifestyle. To me, lifestyle, their wins really hit for me sometimes, whether it's someone healing their relationship with food or someone losing 40 pounds and, improving their labs. Like, I'll never stop coaching lifestyle. It's also good for me to have a diverse roster.
sure.
I like checking in with both lifestyle but I rarely say we're not a good fit. I work with everyone. I would say not everyone fits my style of coaching. Like I said, I'm not going to hold your hand. I'm very much like, hey, communicate with me, check your boxes. If something's wrong, let me know. We'll find a plan that fits your lifestyle. But if
Yeah.
you don't handle my tough love coaching, you're probably not for me.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Hmm.
If they can't handle the truth, it's
That
probably
part.
probably not going to work, you know? What are what are some things you would like to see change or improve in the bodybuilding fitness community space these days?
have been saying this actually recently a little bit, just because fitness influencers are so big right now, and I think not every fitness influencer has to coach. Some are better athletes, some are better coaches. I always have said I'm a better coach than an athlete, doesn't mean I'm a bad athlete. I love learning. I love, breeding weapons for stage, and I love improving people's, health and, making them discover the best potential of themselves. But I am tired of fitness influencers getting just growing every day and pushing like the worst information ever or pushing bad, diet culture. I would like
Yeah.
to see more people approaching balance and stop overcomplicating stuff. It's really not as confusing as people make it. And I'm also very realistic. I shop at Aldi. I shop at Little. You don't need to be going to Whole Foods and Sprouts. You don't need to be eating only organic. And I'm very much realistic in those kind of ways. And I think people come to me overcomplicating, like, hey, I eat this, I have these supplements, I'm doing this. I'm like, whoa, we're kind of doing too much. It's
Yeah.
just simple things. Eating healthy really is not that expensive. You don't need to be buying all these bloat pills or these booty guides that you follow for 6 weeks. The influencer probably is on something.
Yeah.
They're probably on a new, like they're, it's just, I would like to see a little bit more truth come out. And then same thing with bodybuilding and post show, more people talking about that. I think I had that at first as well. Now I kind of really talk about that, explain that to my clients because it's so important and more people go through it than you would ever imagine. It's more common than uncommon, I think.
Oh, for sure. I would say 15% of people actually reverse properly.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
that might be generous.
Hmm.
And I've worked with, top tier men and women. 15% maybe can pull off a flawless reverse. Um, but no, I totally agree with you. And I think, a lot of that is social media culture. And it's like, I need to say something controversial to get clicks and views. So I'm intentionally giving bad advice or controversial advice. I think to your point about, every influencer trying to become a coach, we're in this time lately, which I'm sure you see too, that like everyone's kind of in a money grab. And it's almost just like, okay, if I have all these followers, how can I leverage this into making money? But it's not like, how can I leverage this into helping people? It's how can I leverage this into making money? Even if I'm not helping people, at least I'm making money. And I kind of feel like that's a dangerous trend that we're going down. I don't know if you started to see, like in this past year, we've seen a lot more business focused like coaching apparatus where it's fitness coaching, but it's all about maximizing your profits, not maximizing the success of clients. And I don't know about you, but I was always in the sense of, well, if I have successful clients, I'm going to keep maximizing my profits and success. One leads to the other. And I feel like we're just in a realm where, again, it's like instant gratification. I don't want to wait to maximize my clients. I just want to make the money now.
Yep.
Are you
Yep.
seeing that too?
Yeah, I agree. And Dylan Lauren just spoke at like a conference and they kind of said like if you do what you love and you're good at it, like the money will follow. And it's gonna start to show when you are trying to grab the clients for money or not getting them results or whatever it is. It's gonna start to speak. But if you truly love what you do and you want to invest in your clients, that's gonna come in return.
Yeah. And I'm not shitting on marketing. Like everyone needs to market. You can be the best coach in the world, but if no one knows about you, you got to get out there.
Right.
So it's a slippery slope, but I think some people I've seen this with the functional medicine world. Coaches do a really good job of getting their brand out there and they start getting all these clients, but they're not equipped to coach these clients. The more people they reach, the more dysfunctional people they reach, and they're just setting more and more people up for failure. And so I'm not against maximizing your business tools, but let's maximize your coaching tools first,
Right.
then get the clients. If you have 150 clients and you don't even know how to coach, that's a problem.
I agree. I mean, I have a cap at my roster. I won't go past a certain number just because for me it's quality over quantity. I know I cannot handle a certain amount because then I start not being the best coach that I can be, and I know people are getting, I won't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was absolutely the same way. And of course, I without unintentionally reached that max, and that's when I had to start putting in wait lists and stuff like that because I could tell like I'm getting so drained and there's so many clients working with dumping emotional baggage on me that I cannot keep giving more, you know?
I think a lot of people think coaching is easy, but when you're a good coach, you wear many hats. You're a therapist, you're a coach, you're everything. And it's a lot. Some people are, I say like three clients in one. They just require
Yeah.
a little bit more work. And whether someone is going through a hormonal imbalance and they need labs and they need supplements and we're doing more work, it's a lot. Coaching is not just a breeze, especially when you care about your clients and you're actually getting them results.
Yeah, absolutely. Um last little topic I'll bring up because I know, Dylan is always ahead of research and you guys are very scientific based. Give us some insight into how, with the onboarding process and stuff, how you guys approach the discussion around blood work, hormones, gut health, metabolic function, stuff like that.
Yeah, so if we get a new client coming to us, depending what's in their application, like, hey, right away we have no cycle, or depending on where if they have recent blood work at, where it's sitting at. I never personally require lab work as soon as they sign up. I would like to get started with them first. If someone doesn't have a cycle, depending on how long it's been, I try to get that back first myself within like 4 to 6 weeks. If we don't, I immediately request labs. For us, post-show labs is always required 4 weeks. We wait 4 weeks just to give your body a little bit of time to have those hormones come up a little bit, drop a little bit of stress, and we'll kind of see if we can get the period back by then. If not, labs immediately, a full panel. We're paired with a company. I forget what company link we use for like a full set of labs. And then I love Life Extension. Very affordable, very cheap. Everyone can mainly get it. But definitely depends on what case we're starting with. If someone hasn't had any labs ever, I would like to kind of request and see what they're sitting at. Just a basic panel of like $100 can
Yep.
cover a lot. CBC, kind of see where we're sitting at with that. Now, if someone's coming to us with a crazy PED background and they're a female and kind of hearing if they're on a ton of stuff, we'll be like, hey, let's kind of get labs and assess where we're at. If anyone wants to start a cycle, labs before.
Mhm.
After cycle, labs after. We take that very seriously because you need to know what you're working with before you add something and then
Yeah.
where everything is sitting with after you're done.
Yeah, absolutely. For the most part, would you guys say w with your skills and success, are you guys leaning more into the natural realm or is it like 50-50 enhanced natural? Doesn't matter.
For me, it's definitely natural, right? For my girls, it's definitely natural right now. I have a handful on anything. Dylan probably has a little bit more, but he is really big into maximizing your natural growth before even touching anything. Same thing like we were kind of talking nowadays, people are like, oh, let me hop on something. Like, you've been bodybuilding for a year, dude. Like, come, let's wait a second. And we just had one of our BA coaches qualify for the Olympia who is completely natural and
Wow.
she'd spent 6 years building, like 6 years working towards this goal. And
Yeah.
obviously not it's gonna take other people longer for sure. But our thing is let's maximize before we touch anything. And if we do touch anything, we need to have a conversation and we need to make sure the dose is very moderate. We're not staying on it for weeks and weeks, and we're very smart with it.
Yeah.
But Dylan's big thing is let's maximize our natural potential and let's see if we can turn you pro natural. Because I feel
That's
like
awesome.
that's becoming more unheard of.
Um, yeah, absolutely. Um, So with that said, you guys kind of lean into prioritizing that as much as possible. Um, do you yourself have clients on HRT? I know you mostly lean into younger females, so probably not, but just out of curiosity.
I have a few older women that are who are in perimenopause, postmenopause, and I think it is changing their quality of life. I tell them all the time, I said, let's get some labs done. What do you know? Everything's in the dirt, and they get started and they are feeling wonders. None of my younger girls are on HRT. Definitely my older ones for sure.
Hmm.
And right now, Dylan is, and even us, the whole team, Bair Aesthetics, peptides is a big rise right now.
Yeah,
And there are peptides that I love. Again, I don't think if someone's coming to me like, hey, I need to fix my relationship with food, throw me on a GLP-3. Let's kind of talk about that first. But I
yeah,
think they are kind of changing the way of health right now.
yeah.
It's a very interesting topic that we're kind of staying on top of because I know a lot of people are becoming interested in them.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about them is they're non-toxic,
Yeah.
and they're naturally occurring. So realistically speaking, yeah, some could have some negative detriment, but in the terms of long-term health risk, really minimized in that regard, especially compared to the high androgen PED pushing categories.
Yeah.
Um, Something, yeah, as you know, we've always kind of leaned into with the clinic is same idea, maximize your natural potential. But if you are looking to get into enhancements, let's look at a needs analysis, right? So if a woman comes to us with crash progesterone and crash testosterone, Anavar is not a good option because that's only going to crash a progesterone more and crash testosterone more. It may make better sense to lean into a low dose of TRT, which her body already accepts and already utilizes, and not have any negative side effects or negative detriments. I've seen tons of women who are estrogen dominant succeed through prep with just progesterone therapy. No clen, no T3, no PEDs. The missing link was just balancing their progesterone and their body took off, cellulite off their butt, etc. I think there's such a, or there was, I'm not as involved in competitive bodybuilding anymore, but as I was exiting competitive bodybuilding, there was still such a major focus around estrogen, 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 crashing estrogen. And the term estrogen dominance was starting to be thrown around, but everyone was missing the bigger picture, still thinking that estrogen dominance always meant high estrogen, forgetting that it actually could mean low progesterone. And looking back, I can think of hundreds of women, not just that I coached, but colleagues coached, that were blasting anti-estrogens. And they said, well, it helped. Well, it helped because you were so low progesterone, estrogen dominant. But what you did, you just crashed two hormones instead of balancing the one hormone that was needed?
Yep.
And now we know so much more that, hey, crashing women's estrogen actually isn't helpful. It's super detrimental to their fat loss and overall health. And same thing with men. So, I mean, because I've been a little less involved, chime in. Has things shifted around the whole estrogen control conversation, or is that still a big focus for a lot of people?
I think it's definitely died down a little bit. Maybe I don't see it as much because I've unfollowed people who I no longer resonate with. I mean, that's why I was so excited to come on this podcast. I followed you for a while and I love what you promote. We were talking about like birth control the one day. Like, I love your guys' clinic and how you guys do the blood work. You don't overdo an HRT. You don't just prescribe whatever. You mean you really see what the client needs
Yeah,
and you get down to the root cause of why it's happening.
right.
Um, but I would, yeah, I don't think I see it too much, at least again, not what I follow. I'm very protective now of my Instagram and like what I follow and what I consume because a
I
few
am
years
too.
ago, oh my God, it was so easy to just get
Oh
stuck in
yeah.
everything on Instagram.
And that's why it's like, I can't tell if it's just my feed and algorithm that's changing or if actual the world is changing. Like it's hard to tell, because I have followed a lot less people that I used to follow. So that might be the difference there. But I'm glad you shared that because I was curious if that was still such a overlying theme of just crashing every woman's estrogen with tamoxifen and stuff like
Oh,
that.
I was gonna say we'll see in some lead calls when they put they're on their own like Novadex, and I'm like, how's your mental health? Like in the dirt? And they're like, oh yeah, I've been depressed for 3 months. I'm like, well, your estrogen's at a 4, so couldn't imagine what you feel like. So that we see a few of, and we don't ever blast a coach, but we'll blast that protocol on Instagram, and be like, this is not the way to do it. No bikini competitor, no female really. I would say unless you are high up in bodybuilding or physique, should be touching a estrogen blocker.
Yeah. No, there's just no, there's
No.
there's really no benefit.
Yeah.
Fix the imbalance, but don't be crashing hormones.
Yep. Because it's a journey to recover from. It's not fun. Most people don't want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we've been on for a good bit of time. I know we're both busy people, Sammy. I love this episode. I really appreciate you coming on. I'd love to chat more in the future, about different topics and maybe ways that either the clinic or our supplement company could support you guys at all. But for our listeners who might be interested in following you or reaching out to you for services, give us all the deets on how they can connect with you.
Yeah, biggest way to connect with me is my Instagram, which is Sammy Mur Fit, SammyMur Fit. DM me, and then my link to apply and work with me is in my bio. And I always like to connect with anyone and everyone, whether you're looking for help or just trying to talk or talk about your goals. I am always open for a conversation.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being on today, and I look forward to chatting again soon.
Thank you so much. I had a blast.